Tonight, TUF President Julian Monrose fires back at the government after an open letter that he deems an intimidation tactic. The Police Welfare Association says yes to a new headquarters, but says it's hands-off regarding the National Trust controversy. And Parliament set to debate a 3-month extension to the current state of emergency. The Senior Communications Officer in the Office of the Prime Minister justifies the controversial move. That and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
Good night. It is Monday, the 25th of May, 2020. Welcome to the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. We're on Flow, Channel 117. The broadcast is also being simulcast on Kiss FM, on our Caribbean Hot FM mobile app, and on our Facebook page. I'm Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. The government's open letter to the Trade Union Federation, TUF, requesting a response no later than today, Monday, the 25th of May, on its proposed salary package has been deemed an attempt to intimidate and coerce public sector unions to accept the government's wage proposal. The Prime Minister indicated that there would be no job losses or pay cuts, as has been the case for many private sector workers. He further reiterated the fiscal position of the government and urged for understanding on the part of public sector workers. President of the Trade Union Federation, Julian Monrose, says the tactic will not work and has informed the government of the TUF's position via letter.
Yes, well, I want to say that the Federation had an emergency meeting early this morning, and we are very perplexed that the government would choose that method, the method of an open letter, to communicate with public servants and their representative bodies. We have the view that in this time of crisis, that government should be building trust in its workers rather than trying to seek to divide the workers and the rest of the citizenry. As far as we're aware, and we know we're correct on that, an open letter meant it's addressed to somebody, but it is meant for the public. So this letter, in truth and in fact, was not meant to us, it was an appeal to the public. Usually the purpose of an open letter is to force the person you've written to do something that you want them to do, or to embarrass them, to distress them, etc. We, as a federation, we met this morning as an executive, and we are clear. Our reaction is that we are not going to, the executive, the officers, the members, we are not going to be intimidated by government and the open letter, and that we will not be coerced into doing anything that we believe is not responsible.
So where do public sector unions and the government go from here? The TUF president says the unions are still open to dialogue.
We are willing to continue to engage government in discussion. The Trade Union Federation, we are committed to working with government. What we will not do is to collaborate in a way that is detrimental to our members, their families, and the country. But we are going to, as government is willing to sit with us, we will sit, and we are aware that wherever there is dialogue, there's always the possibility for solution.
The government has indicated that if public sector unions fail to resolve this matter, the government's hands will be forced on the issue, since the administration maintains that it simply cannot continue full cash salary payments to public sector workers. What that will translate into remains to be seen. Tuesday's sitting of Parliament will be critical to determine St. Lucia's direction in the coming months. Among issues up for debate is an extension of the state of emergency for an additional 3-month period.
A sitting of the House of Assembly is scheduled for May 26, 2020, where amongst other motions up for consideration, parliamentarians will debate the extension of a state of emergency for an additional period of 3 months, concluding on September 30th. A move which Senior Communications Officer in the Office of the Prime Minister, Nicole MacDonald, says is necessary as St. Lucia transitions into the next stage of COVID-19 response.
St. Lucia is heading into a different phase in terms of COVID-19 and our response. part of that response means we must remain vigilant, we must remain ready, we must keep our guard up. So the state of emergency is being proposed to be extended, and that is in order for us to continue to maintain that level of vigilance, for the government to be able to move quickly. But we still have to operate in a state of emergency. You know, COVID-19 is not going away anytime soon, but we have to keep on living while also remaining on guard. So this is one of the things that the Prime Minister will explain and provide further details on why it is necessary for the government of St. Lucia and for the country of St. Lucia to continue to operate under a state of emergency and always being in a state of readiness for what is to come.
McDonald says Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, with an accompanying presentation by Commerce Minister Bradley Felix, will provide a full report on the current state of emergency as well as justification for the extension.
Of course, the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance will be presenting the resolution for the state of emergency to be extended, and at that time the Prime Minister will be providing a full report on the state of emergency and the Emergency Powers Act thus far and the measures the government has put in place, which has allowed St. Lucia to be successful and for us to now be, you know, an example for the rest of the region and the world in terms of our management of COVID-19.
McDonald assures that these decisions by government are in the best interest of the people of St. Lucia. She believes that the government's dedication has been reflected in St. Lucia's resilience against COVID-19. Jacka Wooding, Hot 7 News.
Our cameras were on site to catch the initial reaction of onlookers as contractors reduced the Royal Jail to rubble. National Trust members lamented the loss of 200 years of history and the lack of respect for St. Lucia's patrimony.
On May 23, 2020, the Royal Jail came tumbling down as a contractor engaged by the government cleared the way for the halls of justice and police headquarters. Elected Trust member Calix George lamented the loss of nearly 200 years of St. Lucian history. George said development ought not to be devoid of understanding and appreciation for cultural and natural assets. He questioned why, with other feasible and arguably more suitable sites on the complex, a directive was given to demolish the most historically compelling structure in downtown Castries.
The current structure that has now been demolished today was built between 1824 and 1827. It was during the period of slavery, and it was actually built as part of what was known as the amelioration of slavery in St. Lucia because of the abuses on the estates by slave masters. There was an attempt by the government at the time, the administration at the time, to reduce on the condition. So this is pre-emancipation, which was in 1834. So this was more than likely built by slave labor. It was, in fact, one of the oldest buildings in St. Lucia. The entire complex is part of a broader government services complex, which includes some of the buildings which you can see behind me, which are in fact younger, right, more recent than that structure which was destroyed. That one, which was built in 1910, the police offices, and the other one further up, which used to be known as the police headquarters, which was built in 1893. So the question is, why would you look to destroy the oldest building on this site, the building that has so much history connected to it? Because every single year there would have been prison returns, reports of the prisons, and it tells a remarkable length of history in terms of the suffering of people. It was used as a military prison as well. It was used continuously in that vein. And so it is an absolute travesty.
Services manager for the National Trust, Janine Compton, was also on site to take in what she described as cultural injustice. Compton, carrying away a piece of rubble from the sites to be preserved, underscored that a people without history is a lost people. She believes greater respect is due to such historical structures. Clip.
Well, it's a historical part in what preserves our history. This is over 200 years old, and we are demolishing something that belong to St. Lucia. This is one of the oldest buildings in Castries. And as I keep telling people with no history, who do not know where we come from, we don't exist, what makes us St. Lucian? This building should have been incorporated into the design of the new halls of justice as agreed to by the government of St. Lucia. The trust is not saying that we are anti-development, we are pro-development. But our history needs to be preserved for us to know where we came from.
Apparent that the media was not welcome to the site on Monday, as our team was, so to say, dusted away. The accompanying footage shows a tractor moving from the furthest corner of the site as it makes its way to the location of our crew to dump debris.
This is our second attempt of conducting this report here at the site today. During our first attempt, an excavator was moved from the further site of the landmass to where we were standing and was given a directive to dump a large mass of soil in our direction. As you can see, deliberate efforts are being made to pass dust on media personnel who try to speak on this story today. I am Jacko Whitting from Hot 7 News.
Now, the St. Lucia National Trust is vowing action after the government moved forward with the demolition of the old Royal Jail. The trust says the move is unprincipled, given that there was an agreement to work collaboratively to preserve the historical building as part of the design for the halls of justice and police headquarters. A demonstration is said to be in the works. The old Royal Jail is no more. The structure was knocked down on Saturday in a surprise move that has outraged the St. Lucia National Trust, given that the structure is one of the oldest in Castries. 18 months ago, the government had attempted to knock down the structure, but the National Trust had intervened by getting an emergency injunction to halt the demolition. On Saturday, the 23rd of May, the St. Lucia National Trust received word and photos showing the demolition of the Royal Jail. Members of the Trust rushed to the site, but to no avail. The building was demolished. Director of the St. Lucia National Trust, Bishnu Tulsi, called the move a violation of public trust and says it is a matter that the St. Lucia National Trust cannot and will not ignore.
This matter should not rest. This matter is too important. As Khalid spoke about the history of the building, and our chair spoke about the agreements that we've had. Now we've got to examine what are the next steps, because for us to let this go is for us to shirk our duty. We have to first and foremost hold the government accountable for the reason why they broke an agreement that was signed, ordered by the courts, and entered into in good faith. It is just unfathomable.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet is unapologetic on this matter, questioning how long police officers must continue to suffer. In a post on Facebook, Chair of the National Trust, Alison King, said there was an agreement with the government and the contractor to come up with a design to incorporate the existing structure as much as possible. The government, she says, reneged on that agreement executed before the Attorney General of St. Lucia. For that, she says, the government must be held accountable.
So we are very surprised to be hearing today, a Saturday, in this state of emergency period, that this building is being demolished. This is a very devious move on the part of the government as far as the trust is concerned. It's a dishonest move on the part of the government, and it's in bad faith. Okay? We are not pleased, and we will be doing all of the public relations that we can to ensure that the government is embarrassed by this. They deserve to be embarrassed by this. This is an attack on the patrimony and the people of this country.
Prime Minister Alan Chastanet, for his part, posted on his Facebook page, quote, "How much longer must our police and justice officials wait before they get the working home they so rightly deserve?" End quote. The trust is adamant that there was no intention to be obstructionist on this effort, but rather to ensure that the project could move forward while being sensitive to the historical value of the old Royal Jail. Prime Minister Alan Chastanet has made it a point to highlight the plight of police officers in the aftermath of the demolition of the old Royal Jail. The police force is set to benefit from a proper headquarters as part of the project, which will also incorporate a halls of justice for the judicial system. The vice president of the Police Welfare Association, Curtis Roberts, says the association is hands-off on the controversy surrounding the historical value of the site.
I know there has been that contention and that argument between the public, between the government and the National Trust. However, we have decided to stay out of that battle. Whatever the two entities between the government and the trust, whatever they believe is right, I assume that's what's going to be done.
However, Roberts says the Police Welfare Association is breathing a major sigh of relief that police officers will finally have a place to call home.
We are the Police Welfare Association. I think we are quite happy that these works are going on right now. Finally, maybe we can see some semblance of an effort being made so that the police can have somewhere they can call home. Police headquarters, which is a lot better than what is going to happen or what is happening now.
That was Vice President of the Police Welfare Association, Curtis Roberts. You're watching the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Still to come, Arnold Joseph is remembered by friends and former classmates. The External Affairs Minister says government is committed to repatriation, but there is only so much that can be done. And the Health Minister meets with disgruntled St. Jude workers seeking the removal of their HR manager. The details of these stories and more after the break.